This is my tutorial for making these little stuffed toy bears. They are made out of upcycled quilts. I didn't cut up an entire quilt just for these. First, I made a coat or two out of a quilt that I found at a thrift store or a yard sale. And with the leftover scraps, instead of throwing those out, I make these little stuffed toys. They sell really well at my stores. And the scraps from making the bears can get chopped up and stuffed inside of them. So you end up with zero waste. How cool is that? I prefer to use quilts. You can see he's not made out of a quilt. I think it's a she, actually. And she's made out of a real pretty dress that I found. The colors appealed to me. It's a little bit heavyweight, almost canvas, but she stuffs better. They just feel better, more consistently stuffed if you also use a piece of quilt as a second layer underneath that fabric. So she's actually got quilting on both sides of her. This one is an actual quilt. Okay, so here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need, from my website, this pattern. It is sort of a cookie cutter shape. You could draw your own, or you could look for some other shaped animal if you want, but keep it very simple. It needs to be just a cookie cutter, two-dimensional. There's no extra shapes. That makes them really easy to make, quick to make, and they appeal to a lot of people. They're very universal. Makes them safe for children too. So I made this bear so that it fits on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. Print it out. It will fill up the whole sheet, and you will need 2 pieces of quilt or fabric, whatever you choose, that this bear will fit on. Now you can see it's a little bit of a tight fit there. Let's see. That's a little bit better. Oh, if we turn it just a little, that's good too. All right, and then another piece, right sides together. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So we need that. We need a pen. Doesn't matter what kind. It does not need to be erasable. It could be a Sharpie. It's not going to show in the finished project. If you want a label on the side of your animal, then you need a label. And if you want a tail on the back, you need about 1 inch, just a little 1 inch piece of some fake fur, something to use for that. You'll need some really sharp scissors and some heavy duty upholstery thread and a needle for sewing the bear closed. So I do this in a little bit different order than most people would make a stuffed animal. And that is, I just lay out the pattern and trace it. We are not going to cut it out before sewing. We are going to just leave these pieces all together so we don't have to worry about any shifting or anything. I don't even use pins. I might use pins if it's real fluffy and shifty, but this will be really smooth. So there, it's all traced out. I'm going to mark right here, and I'll mark it on the pattern for you too, that this is where I'm going to start sewing, right here. And I'm going to sew this direction, and this is where I'm going to end sewing. And on this side, somewhere over here is where I'm going to put that label, just a little reminder for me. In fact, right now, before I go to the machine, I am going to cut that about a 1/4 inch away from the line where the label goes. It'll just make it much easier when I get over to the sewing machine and start sewing. So I can use regular sewing machine for this. It's not too thick, and you're not going to be going through extra layers or anything. So let's go over to the machine now. All right, no pins, didn't move anything. I have a generic gray colored thread in my machine because then I can sew many colors of bears, just batch sew them. And once this part's sewn, I can take the bears and scissors and the other little things with me, and when I'm sitting at a show somewhere or a shop, I can do the finish work there. So this part, I'm going to set my machine for a 2.5 length stitch and put the needle down right here on the line. No seam allowance. Don't even think about a seam allowance. And I'm going to do a nice couple of back stitches right there. And just follow that line as closely as you can. And whenever there's a change of direction, if it's a sharp point, make sure you stop with your needle down at that spot. Okay, now I'm coming up to where my label goes. So I'm going to fold my label in half. And you can see I'm not real crazy about these labels. They don't have a lot of seam allowance room. So I have to be very, very specific about where I place it. Since I know where that line is where the seam will be, where I'll be stitching. I'm following that this has enough fabric on the right side to keep it in there, and enough on the left that you can still see the letters. Okay, now it's in, and keep going. Underarm pivot. I do one little thing different here at the neck, where the arm meets the neck. Well, there is no neck. Where the arm meets the head, I pivot, but then I take about 3 little tiny stitches. Then I get back on track onto my cheek, and that ear looks like it's going to fall off the edge there, so I'm going to cut it a little short here. I'll check that before I finish. Pivot, top of the head, pivot, ear, pivot, other, no neck, just 3 little stitches. There's a lot of bulk there, and so it just makes it easier to turn and looks better. And underarm and another back stitch, and just like that, we're done sewing. We're done with the sewing. Okay, clip my threads. Let me check where that underneath there, you see that it went off the edge just a little. So from the back side, I'm gonna redo the line of the ear and just bring it in like 1/8 of an inch, maybe not even that much. Okay, there. Now it's nice and safe inside there. So the next step is to trim around all the edges. Now's where you're actually, instead of sewing to what the seam allowance is, you're trimming it down to that seam allowance. So I am gonna clip into the corner here, but not through. And the rest of it, I trim at somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch. But it is important to get right into that corner, those corners right there. Never cut the stitches, just right up to it. All right, that's all trimmed. Now we're gonna reach inside and try and push an ear out. That's kind of the farthest away from that side opening. Just have a blob. We do not have any limbs yet. So I'm going to use my fingers to help push out each of those limbs. I got one arm, one leg. Come on. There's another leg. There's an arm. There's an ear and one more ear, please. Okay, he's pretty rough still, so I'll take my scissors because if I close them, they're not too pointy, and I'm gonna just kind of nudge all the seams out. Make sure everything's popped out all the way. You could use a chopstick, you could use a butter knife. Something small that fits in there. I just already have my scissors right here, and they're not real sharp on the point here on these big ones. There's one leg. No, that's an arm. Okay. See how it's still bunched up in there? And when I take the point to it, I can push that seam out nice and round. So I didn't get that cheek very well. All right. Get that cheek out. Make sure this arm is out. Okay. So now he's looking a little more shapely. I'd like this out a little more there. Okay. So I'm going to set him aside for a second, and we're done with the sewing machine, so I'm going to go back to the table. All right, so here's the trimmings from the edges that I cut off, and I'm going to chop them up just a little bit. You don't have to use this, but I'm trying to use as many rescued materials as I can. Sort of a personal challenge, just for fun, but I mean, it's a good thing to do, and it's sort of nice to know that at least one product doesn't really have anything going in the trash, not to speak of. This won't be enough, and it's also very lumpy when you use fabric scraps like this, so I always combine it with fiberfill stuffing. I haven't bought stuffing in years. I like to buy decorator pillows at the thrift store. I figure the decorator ones from the couch probably haven't been used for sleeping somebody's head as much, less likely to have somebody's drool or something on it, which I wash everything anyway, but just for me, for my sake, that's what I do. I take some of this, some of that, a little of both, and we'll start with the farthest away from the opening, which is up in the head, the ears. Stuff some of that in. Yeah, so I bring home a decorator pillow. A lot of times they have a cover on them that unzips or unfastens somehow. Take the cover off, and I've got some nice decorator fabric to use, and wash it. And then you wash the pillow that's on the inside, and the stuffing gets washed and dried. and it fluffs it all up and it's clean, and that's probably $5 worth of fiberfill that you're taking out of the waste world and using it, and you don't have to buy new. Perfectly clean. So okay, now we've got the head done. Let's stuff the arm that's on the opposite side. I have never felt like I'm very good at stuffing animals. I've never wanted to make stuffed animals for that reason, but these I've gotten kind of used to. I know that I want to make sure there's plenty of stuffing in the no neck area, the joints, so that it doesn't bend there. And I just used up all that trimming real quick. And I also don't, it's up to you how tight you stuff it. If you keep them kind of soft and squishy, the kids like them more, the babies, I sell a lot of these for like baby and shower gifts. And it's because I haven't put any removable eyes or anything on them to make them unsafe for kids. They're just fine. All right. Look at how quick that was. He's all stuffed now. Okay. Make sure you get the stuffing down in the toes and feet. Be nice if the camera wasn't shaking. Okay. And there we go. So now I'll take my piece of my thread. Oops. I'm going to use double just because it's just easier and double the strength. Easier to make a knot. One, two, three. Bring it through. Okay. And I'm just going to make looks like a running stitch on one side, about a scant 1/4 inch in from the edge, and then do it from the other side, and then you pull it tight and it squeezes together. So it doesn't even matter that my thread doesn't match, because it all just goes to the inside there. These would be really special if they were made out of a favorite garment that your child or grandchild loved to wear, and you wanted to preserve it somehow instead of sticking it in a box in the garage, like I have many clothes of my kids in there. Make it into a little teddy bear that can stay with them a long time. All right, sides all sewn up. Now for the tail. I'm going to just cut a circle, and I'm cutting through just the backing as much as possible, not the fur. See, when you do that, you don't end up with a lot of fur falling all over the place. Just a little circle. It's about 3/4 of an inch, and it's not perfect. And we're going to put it on the back of the bear and just stitch that down. Poke yourself and stitch it down around the edges. Tuck that tail inside. The other inside, come on. The face is completely optional. For a few years, I sold them without faces, and then I decided to add faces. I usually just paint with acrylic paints. Just some eyes, mouth, and the little muzzle, the little nose mouth thing. Okay, and then we'll tie a knot, tuck it inside. And trim that off. And I'm gonna trim that a little bit shorter. I know it takes all of the white part away, or frosted, but there we go. That's all there is to making a little teddy bear. So have fun making yours.